这可以用，好吧？好，翻页用这个翻吧。
翻页用它翻就行，要是
哎，我看一下，
您试一下。
可以，好，可以，好，好。第一步是要静音是吧？已经解成了吗？Okay, hello everyone. My name is David Li, Li Daokui in Chinese. Welcome to Tsinghua University's Global Open Course. Okay, so it's my great pleasure to share with you my thoughts on a very important issue, I think, okay, which is poverty elimination. Okay, poverty elimination. So my topic is super simple. The topic is 6 lessons from China. Poverty elimination, 6 lessons from China. So towards the end, I will explain what the 6 lessons are. Okay, so first I will talk about why poverty elimination is important. I will argue that it is a shame of modern humanity. Having poverty in this world is a shame for our modern humanity. Then I will explain to you China's tremendous contribution for the world in eliminating poverty in the past 40 years. And then I explain to you how China did it. What are the steps China has adopted in order to achieve this goal, okay? Then the very important part of this course is to talk about 6 lessons from China for the rest of the world. So what the 6 lessons are, and towards the end, I will summarize my key points. Okay, so first, why poverty is an important topic? Because I argue very simply, poverty is a shame of modern humanity. Now, why is that? Now, imagine we come across a person from the Mars, far away. Okay, what is one of the most surprising thing the Martian would find in this world? I think is poverty. He or she is very surprised by our world still having a huge number of people living under poverty. And also imagine Aristotle, Plato, or Chinese Confucius woke up to this world today, okay, from 2,000 years ago to today, okay? What are the surprising things they find? Of course, they will be amazed by our technology, by our fancy technologies, internet, by our cars, by our ability to launch human beings to the outer space. However, I again will argue that one of the most important unpleasant surprises for Aristotle, for Plato, for Confucius, for Lao Tzu is the continued existence of poverty. Well, what is poverty? Very simple. The UN has given us a clear definition, the United Nations. Poverty refers to the phenomenon of severe deprivation of basic human needs. Severe deprivation. What is severe deprivation of human beings? Specifically, it refers to the deprivation of food, no food, not enough food, not enough sheltering, okay, nowhere to go when it rains, when it snows, when the wind blows, okay, and not enough access to safe drinking water, which is also extremely important, okay. We are used to clean water, but the lack of clean water is very widely spread in the rest of the world, okay? And also basic sanitation, deprivation of basic sanitation, and deprivation of healthcare, education, and also very important, access to information. Access to information is the essential part of modern life. Without access to information, we would be not like us today. We were not what we are, okay? Now, how to measure, how to judge whether a person is living in poverty or not? Well, you may say that I understand, I can tell you whether this person is living under poverty or not, okay? If you show me the picture. Well, That you may be right. Well, however, for scientific research and for international statistics, we have another way to identify people living under poverty. The World Bank and the UN have been trying to do this. Their standard is $1.9 a day. If a person does not have enough consumption amounting to $1.9 measured in 2011's US dollar, okay, which is actually by today's standard perhaps even $2.3, okay. If the person's total bundle of consumption is valued below $1.9 of 2011's US dollars purchasing power, then we see this person is living under poverty. Okay, super simple, super simple. Now the issue is how large is the population in poverty worldwide? Well, the number is easy to remember. Okay, unfortunately, it's very large. Okay, it's close to 700 million. 700 million population living under poverty. Okay, of course that number changes every year. Okay, I will show you during the pandemic this number actually increased. Okay, so 700 million. Okay, by 2017, as a percentage of the world's population, that's almost 9%, almost 10%. It's 9.3%. So roughly, we can keep in your mind 700 million, 10% of the world's population living under poverty. What do you think? It's a large number. To me, it's a large number. Okay, 10% living under poverty. And people living under poverty are pretty much concentrated in a few geographical regions. Where are they? Okay, one half of people living under poverty living 5 countries. They are India, Nigeria, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, and Bangladesh in descending order of number. Okay, these 5 countries account for 50%, one half of the world's people living in poverty. Furthermore, if you do it from different perspective, we can also see that almost 90%, almost 90%, 87 to be exact, 87% of the world's population living under poverty are from 2 areas. They are Southeast, the Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. South Asia, including India and Bangladesh. Sub-Sahara Africa, including Nigeria, okay, and Democratic Republic of Congo, okay. So they are very much concentrated. Actually, if you think about it, this number, in a way, is a good number. It shows that what we modern human beings can concentrate our efforts in these relatively few small number of geographical regions. It's not widely spread. It's concentrated in these few areas so that we can concentrate our efforts in these regions. Okay? Now, so why? Let's come back to the issue. Why is a shame? Why is a shame for modern humanity, for the human society as a whole, modern society? Why is a shame? Well, the reason is very simple. Super simple. I argue. I only have one argument for this. Okay? That is, today's world. In today's world, our modern humanity has put together a tremendous amount of production capacity, way beyond basic needs of all human beings. Okay? The production capacity today is tremendously large, so that there's actually should be no need, there should be no reason to have people living under poverty. Let me show you a few numbers, okay, all arguing for this point, okay? The first number is to show you the grain production, okay? Rice, wheat, so on and so forth, corn, right? How much grain our humanity, our human beings are able to produce a year, okay? Well, it is 2.7 billion tons. Well, you may have no idea. How large is 2.7 billion tons by 2019? 2.7 billion, okay? forget about the number. Let me show you a different number, okay? The different number is 1 kilogram. 1 kilogram of grain per year, per person per day. Well, per 1 kilogram, I don't have to explain to you, right? These 2 bottles of water, I guess, would account for ½ kilogram, okay? So 4 bottles of water, the weight of that is the production of grain per person per day, okay? So, well, how large is 1 kilogram of grain per person per day? Well, that's exactly 1.6 times the amount of energy, biological energy we need for each person to do our activities, right? So so we have more than enough. We have 60% more production of grain to support you and I to be functional as human beings, okay? So we have so much production of grain, okay? Now you may ask, where are the grains? Well, you're telling me we have a lot of production of grain. What are the surplus grain, okay? Answer is simple. We use the surplus grain to produce alcohol, okay? Alcohol, during pandemic, we use alcohol every day, right? We call it, there's a fancy name for alcohol, you know, liquor, okay? Liquor, fancy, I'm not a chemist, okay? There's a fancy name for this, okay? So this is made from grain, okay? We may easily reduce slightly the amount of production of liquor, right? And then we can help those poor people living under poverty to feed themselves. Okay, so that's the first example. Second example is meat. You may argue that, well, in addition to grain, we also consume meat. How much meat this world has been producing each year? Well, again, 0.33 billion tons. No idea, right? It's no idea. How much is that? No idea. Well, I can explain to you. It's 0.85 kilogram per person per day. Per person per week. Per person per week. Almost 1 kilogram per person per week. Well, how much is 0.85 kilogram per person per week? Well, you may lost account, okay? But let me explain to you, okay? According to health experts, this amount, 0.85 kilogram per person per week, is too much. Too much for what? For the health of our heart. We consume too much. If we consume all of it, we will develop problems in our blood system, in our heart. Okay, we'll suffer from heart strokes prematurely. Okay, right? This is too much. So this again shows us this world has more than enough production capacity of meat to feed everybody, including people who are living under poverty. Okay. Now let me change the tone a little bit. Okay. How about the monetary? Let's explain monetary terms. Okay. How much money we can spare for the poor people living under poverty? Suppose hypothetically, this is of course very infeasible plan. Suppose we give money to those people living under poverty every year, so that they can have enough food to eat and that they have enough sheltering. Okay, so according to the World Bank or UN standard, okay, $1.9 a day, right? How much money is that? Okay, how much do we need? Okay, well, I made a calculation for you. Okay, we can only ask for only 1% contribution. Only 1% contribution from each of the 10% richest 10% population. We'll only ask each of the 10% richest people in this world to contribute barely 1% of their income. Then we can do it. I think it's a very small number. What do you think? To me, it's a very small number. 1% is like, in Chinese we say is a piece of hair. It's one single hair from their body. Okay, nothing. Okay, you don't feel any change in their quality of life. Okay, so 1% of the income of the richest 10% of the people in this world can eliminate poverty. The amount is 700 million. Oh, why? So this is not too much, okay? So it's a shame that we are unable, we as human beings have not been able to do this, okay? Until now, we're still struggling, okay? Now, another figure I explained to you. In this world, unfortunately, we have potentials of conflicts. We have conflicts, and we have still potentials for larger military conflicts. So much so, nations build their military power. Okay, they train their army, they purchase weaponry, and so on and so forth, right? And how much is the total expenditure of all nations on military expenditure? That again is 1.9 billion US dollar. Okay, in 2019. You may say, oh, Professor Lee, I have no idea how much 1.9 billion US dollar is. Okay, sorry, trillion. 1.9 trillion US dollar is. Okay, well, that's roughly the same size of the economy of Japan. Offhand, I believe I'm right. Okay, I believe I'm right. It's roughly the size of the Japanese economy. Well, again, you say, oh, I have no idea how large Japanese economy is. Okay, well, forget it. Let me explain to you. Okay, if all nations come together, if they agree that each of them cut their military expenditure by a quarter, by 25%, and donate the money to poor people in this world, then we will be able to eliminate poverty. Isn't that simple, right? A quarter of the expenditure on military. Okay, all nations cut the same level. So all indications indicate, all numbers indicate that it's a shame that in today's world we still have poverty, because we have so much production capacity and we spend money on much less important things like military than poverty relief. Okay, so this, I would argue to you that this thing is one of the things which will make us feel ashamed when we meet a person from the Mars, or when we meet a saint, a sage, right? Like Aristotle, or Plato, or Confucius, or Lao Tzu, right? If we meet them, they will ridicule us. They will be very sarcastic on us. Okay, they will criticize us. Okay, so that's the issue. That's the first point I want to make. Poverty is a big issue. It's a shame for everybody in today's world. Okay, now that's why today we have worldwide consensus, if not action. We have worldwide consensus that we should work together to eliminate poverty. And one of the latest indicators of this consensus is a UN statement. The statement is called the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Sustainable Development Goals, okay? There are 17 goals for the UN, for all countries. 30, okay? The number one goal is to eliminate poverty. The number one goal of the 17 goals of the UN Sustainable Development Program is to eliminate poverty by 2030, okay? And yet, despite consensus, despite our capacity of production, we are still pretty far away from achieving that goal. This is a chart showing us how far away we are lagging behind, okay? This chart shows us the number of cases of poverty starting from 2015 to now, okay? The number now is our projected number, okay? We don't have actual number, okay? So by 2015, we still had almost 750 population living under poverty, and then the number reduced to 755, and then by 2019. But then, due to the pandemic, this number of poverty increased by almost 100 million. This number of population poverty increased by 97 million during the pandemic. Reason is, of course, very simple, because that pandemic hit the poorest people the hardest, okay, because they don't have access to internet, they don't have access to employment, okay? So this picture is very unfortunate, okay? Okay, then next I'll explain to you what China has achieved in the past 40 years. Okay, the first point was already made. The first point was simply to summarize that poverty is an important issue, and the elimination of poverty is the utmost important task of UN. And it's a shame. Then what's the Chinese contribution? Why we are here? Why we are here talking about China? Well, we have good reasons to be here, because China made tremendous contribution to the world in eliminating poverty. Okay, so now first give you background. China, of course, is the country with the largest population. So much so, many years ago, 70 years ago, okay, 70 plus years ago, U.S. leaders, for example, the U.S. Secretary of State, okay, Dean Acheson said, okay, he said that all governments in China face the first problem, that is how to feed its population, and he said none of the Chinese governments have succeeded by 1949. 1949 was the beginning of the People's Republic of China, okay? And the U.S. Secretary of State, Dean Acheson, of course, at that time, he was very suspicious of the new government in China. He was implying that this new government in China will still fail to feed its population, therefore having poverty. Okay, then what happened? Okay, according to Chinese statistics, which I will again show more, okay, according to Chinese National Bureau of Statistics, in the past 40 years, Chinese rural poverty has reduced by almost 770 million. Okay, so in the rural area by 2019, there's almost minimum 5.5 million population living under poverty. So that's Chinese statistic, okay? And according to the World Bank, Chinese poverty ratio, as the ratio of people living under poverty divided by total population, reduced from 66% in 1990 to almost 0.5% of 2016, okay? Now let me show you a different picture, okay? Show you a different picture. Well, this picture is I think is impactful. It's very interesting, okay? Very impactful, okay? Very significant. China's efforts in the past 40 years in eliminating poverty accounted for 70% of the world's reduction of poverty. 70% of the global reduction in poverty came from China. It's a huge number, okay? Chinese population is about 17 or maybe 18% of the world's population, okay? So disproportionately, China made a contribution in the amount of 70% to the world in reducing poverty, okay? And last year, 2020, China announced and also recognized by the world, by the United Nations, that ahead of 10 years, China achieved the UN goal of eliminating poverty. So ahead of the UN schedule. The UN schedule was 2030. China achieved this goal 10 years ahead of schedule. Okay, so this is the Chinese contribution, and these are pictures. These are pictures related to the issue of poverty. Okay, on the left-hand side was the very first meeting of the UN organization. It's called FAO. FAO is the Food and Agriculture Organization. So in 1974, FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, at that conference, many people were saying, oh, China is the biggest problem because China will not be able to feed itself. FAO was very worried. In this picture, a Chinese gentleman was giving a medal, giving a ID card. What is the ID card? The ID card shows that this Chinese gentleman, became the president of FAO. I don't know whether the president is the right word. Maybe the managing director, whatever. The head of the FAO. Why? Because China made a big progress in more than feed itself. China solved the problem of food, okay, for Chinese people. Okay, so the Chinese gentleman was elected by majority members of the FAO to be the leader of the FAO in order to recognize Chinese progress. Okay, so this is food poverty. Now, how did China achieve this? Okay, I explained to you poverty is a big issue. It's a shame of modern humanity. And I explained to you China made a tremendous progress in achieving poverty elimination. How did China do it? Okay, there were 5 stages. Okay, China achieved this goal in 5 steps. Step 1 or stage 1 is from 1949 to 1978. This is an era of central planning or command economy. China was implementing a command economy, which is more accurate than planned economy in describing the operation. Okay, so China at this stage was very much aware of the problem of poverty. So in this era, in this first 30 years of the PRC, okay, China applied a principle called Egalitarian Principle. That is, people should be equal. Egalitarian Principle or socialist principle in terms of egalitarian, okay? That is, every programs to support people under poverty. And these programs mostly are more than monetary. It's not just giving people money. Rather, it's giving people benefits, many help in kind, not purely monetary, okay? So more specifically, all these benefits, all these supports, all this assistance were directly given by the government. How? Well, in urban areas, the government, the central government, the local governments give instructions to employers or employing units. We call employing units like Tsinghua University, okay? And also municipal governments to make sure that they have enough support, they give enough support to people under poverty. So who were the people living under poverty who were supported by employing units like Tsinghua University or the city of Beijing? These usually are the families who do not have kids. These are the families whose members are become severely ill. These are the families who have disabled members. They are physical challenged, okay? These are the special families having special difficulties, okay? Then you ask, how about the other families? For other families in cities, the government and the employing units are trying to provide them with jobs. Okay, so this is in this era. If you come to Tsinghua University, if you come to this classroom, before you enter this classroom, you will meet the bodyguard, the security guard on the top, right? At that time, the security guard most likely would be a person whose family had trouble, had difficulties. So that person, that security guard at the gate of this teaching building, most likely were a young man or a woman whose parents were paralyzed or disabled. So providing a job for able body, or sometimes directly provide food or medical service for this disabled, for these families in difficulty, was the main means for employing units and for municipal governments to help. Okay. Now, how about the rural area? In rural area, different approach. In rural area, if you know a little bit about Chinese economy, at that time, villagers were collectivized. Villagers okay, families with EU members who could not work. And in this case, the collectives would provide basic food. And during holidays, during Chinese New Year, the collectives would go to the family of these families and provide them with with special food and give them special special gifts. Okay, this is the traditional, this is the old way, stage 1, okay? So overall, very low amount of subsidies because China was very poor at this stage. So egalitarian principle to make sure that the extremely poor families are supported. But because of the very low level of economic development, China still had a huge number of people living under poverty, something numbered around 700 million at that 700 million at that time. Huge number. Okay, so stage 2. Okay, here's a picture of Chairman Mao visiting poor kids. Look at this kids showing skinny bone, skinny bone, right? Very skinny. It's poor nutrition, right? The Chairman Mao was visiting families of poor families, okay, in the countryside. Okay, this is a picture showing the efforts of the government during the first stage of economic development. Okay, now second stage was the reform and opening up era, 78 to 2012. Okay, we call opening up, and of course we're still in the era of opening up and reform. However, after 2012, we call ourselves to be in a new era of opening up and reform, okay, under President Xi Jinping. Okay, so anyway, during 78-2012, poverty alleviation was put on government's agenda. What is the major means? The major means was through developmental programs. Why? Because at this stage, there were 18 very poor regions in China. We call 18 concentrated and contiguous special hardship areas. These are mountainous areas. These are very areas with very small number of arable land, with huge low amount of water. Okay, so there are 18 areas were identified, and the central government provided special support for these 18 areas. Okay, and also the approach to help the poor people changed from directly providing support in the first era to providing capacity for these regions to develop. Economic development was the major means to help them. Okay, in Chinese we sometimes say that in this era, the government tried to help these regions to generate their own blood, rather than having a blood transfusion. Okay, so they have these regions are able to come up with their own blood, they generate their own nutrition. Okay, so and then what are the programs? Okay, there are multiple programs. Okay, physical support, tax reduction, tax concession, and also central government transfers of physical revenue, so on and so forth, to these regions. So there were comprehensive programs to support extremely poor areas. The aim, I emphasize, is not to directly give money, rather through giving money to help these regions to make investments in production facility, in factories, and in attracting businesses, so that these regions can develop on their own. Okay, and also there's another important thing important policy initiative. That is in 1987, the central government announced a program. This program, we often say 87 program, because it's the year 87. 80-year-7 program, very important. The 87-year program, 1987, right? Announced that the Chinese government will try to reduce 80 million people to help people to say goodbye to poverty. 80 million. Well, and these 80 million people are the poorest people in China. Okay, and the plan was covered the year from 94 to 2004. Now, from today's perspective, this program was relatively modest. only 80 million. Okay, I will show you that later on. We have much larger number of programs. Okay, right? And then another thing is that by 1987, the central government established a special agency. It's like ministry, a new ministry. So you can think of it as a ministry. This ministry is called the State Council Poverty Alleviation and Development Office. Okay, Poverty Alleviation and the Development Office. This is like a ministry. Okay, in other words, the central government established a special agency to reduce poverty. Okay, that's stage 2. Stage 3 is, I think, the most interesting one, is the latest one. Okay, stage 3 is we call precision poverty elimination under President Xi Jinping. Precision poverty elimination in order to build a moderately prosperous society. A moderately prosperous society, of course, is a major program, a policy program, and one of the most important elements of this program is poverty elimination. So Chinese government announced that by 2020, all poverty should be eliminated, and also Chinese government says that poverty elimination should be based upon 5 components, not just money. Okay. They include food, basic food for poor people, basic clothing for poor people, and make sure poor people are able to go to schools, 9 years of compulsory education. Poor kids should be able to go to schools. No kids should be left behind. And basic medical care for everybody, okay? And safe housing. So 5 comprehensive components of the poverty reduction, poverty elimination program, okay? And also the key word is precision. What do you mean by precision? Precision means that they precisely identify who are the poor people, precisely identify what kind of programs to implement for each of the poor persons, okay? And precise use of funds, no waste of funds, only targeted for poor people, and precise measure to households, precise subsidies to households, and precisely assign government officials to each of the poorest villages to help the village. Okay, so and also another interesting point is that this is a very comprehensive program. There are many things. Let me just show you one thing. Okay, just mention one thing. For every poor person living under poverty, the government established a registration card, a profile in the computer saying, okay, how old this person is, what kind of family he is, where he lives, what kind of problem this person has, okay? So for each poor person, there is registration. There is a special ID, special file in the computer system, okay? So this is called a special registration, okay? So so there are many efforts to show, and also, also government officials are assigned to each poor village, which I mentioned before, okay? That's stage 3. Now, these are the pictures show you, okay? On the left-hand side is a picture where in a village, a technician, an agricultural technician, actually in this case, a technician who specializes in breeding goat, you know, sheep breeding. Okay, this guy is giving guidance to poor villagers to help them how to develop the industry of goat and sheep. Okay, grow sheep. Okay, like husbandry. Okay, this is a 畜牧业. Okay, this is a husbandry industry. Okay, so this shows you the support of the poor people is not just monetary. Rather, it comes in technology transfer. Okay, on the right-hand side is a picture of a government official trying to work with villagers in studying the situation of the grain production. The grain, or in this case, I think is the wheat. Okay, the wheat grown. Okay. So that's stage 3. The key word is precision. Okay. Now from 2020. Okay, 2020 was a milestone year. 2020, China announced it has eliminated all poverty in this country. But from 2020 to now, what's the new things? Okay, now Chinese government pushed a new initiative. It's called rural revitalization program and common prosperity. These are two programs, okay, to succeed the precision poverty elimination program, okay, precision poverty elimination program. What is rural revitalization program? The rural revitalization program is meant to make sure the Chinese countryside are not left behind. They will not become the deserted areas. The Chinese rural areas, okay, so as long as they are able to suitable for human living, should be prosperous, should enjoy the same amount of infrastructure and the public service as cities, okay? And what is the Common Prosperity Program, which was announced about 1 year ago, okay? The Common Prosperity Program, in my view, okay, this is a very hot topic, okay? Different interpretations of this. My interpretation of the Common Prosperity Program is very simple. It is meant that all members of the Chinese society to have equal opportunities for their human development. Everybody should have the same opportunity of human development, such as going to school, such as get employment, such as get training, such as set up an enterprise, okay, become an entrepreneur, okay? And also, the Common Prosperity Program also means that if you are unlucky, you tried very hard, you are given an equal opportunity, however, you are very unlucky. All your investments were honestly made, however, in the end, did not work, okay, it doesn't work, okay, then the society, the government will help you, okay, after you are trying, if you fail, you are not unlucky, okay, so we'll help you, okay, and also, just in case you have bad luck, you have a disability problem, you have you're physically challenged, you have a occasionally mental health problem, then what the society should provide support for you, okay? So to summarize, common prosperity is twofold. Number one, equal opportunity for everybody. Second, support for people who are unlucky, who are disabled. Okay, so this is a fair society. Okay, fine. Now, finally, what are the lessons from China? So I told you that poverty is important. It's a shame that we still have poverty in this world. And we told you that China made a tremendous contribution to eliminating poverty. 70% of the world's poverty reduction came from China. I told you that China made tremendous efforts and detailed efforts towards this. So what are the lessons for other countries? Are there lessons at all from China which can be transferable to other countries? Well, some people say, no, China is too special. Okay, all these programs are very special. They cannot be transplanted to other countries. Well, I argue that at least some of the practices of China should be transferable to other countries. So at least, so here I summarize that there are 6 lessons from China. Okay, there's 6 simple lessons from China that all other countries who aspire to emulate China's success should study carefully. Number 1, you need top-level commitment. That the leader, the highest leader of the country should be committed to poverty elimination. In the case of China, at the very last stage, the final push came from President Xi Jinping. He said that it is essential to raise rural living standards and particularly those of impoverished villages. No single poor area or single poor person should be left behind in achieving this goal. So he himself is personally committed to achieving poverty elimination. I had a chance to meet him several times in the past 10 years, multiple times, maybe half a dozen chances, okay? In all the meetings I participated, small meetings, closed door sessions, he would mention poverty reduction. He would say poverty reduction is job number 1, okay? for a local government official, if in your local region the job of poverty elimination is unfinished, you cannot be promoted. Okay, he said that until this goal is reached, we will not let it go. Okay, we'll keep on doing that. Okay, so he went to all of the 14 contiguous poor areas. We have 14 poor areas in which there's extreme high level, 30–40% of people living under poverty. So he personally went to each of them. Many of the regions are very far away, are difficult to go. I went to one of them. I went to one of them. Okay, took me 5 hours of taking a bus. Okay, very difficult, very dangerous. The roads are very, very, very risky. Okay, if the driver is not careful, the vehicle may fall down. Okay, may fall down. Okay, so he has personal and uttermost commitment to achieving this goal. Okay, so he said in one of the meetings, so he said every meeting, every important meeting starts with talking about poverty elimination. Okay, so that's top leadership, top level commitment. This is super, super important. I don't think it's difficult to other countries to emulate. For countries like Bangladesh, India, why not do this? Okay, top level commitment. Treat poverty reduction as job number one. Okay, second lesson, building institutions. In order to reduce poverty, money alone would not do it. Okay, the key is to build up a network of institutions. Let me give you a few examples. One example I call it one-on-one strategy. Okay, what is that? That is, each of the counties. County is a Chinese unit of administration. We have about 2,500 counties in China. Okay, usually a county consists of a population of 1 million. Okay, so each of the counties in rich regions in the eastern parts of China usually are richer. Okay, so each of the richer counties is paired up with a poor county in the western part to help the western and poor region to eliminate poverty. The same was done for businesses. Each of the large corporations, whether state-owned enterprises or private enterprises, have been paired up voluntarily with a poor village or a poor county. Tsinghua University is also paired up with one of the poor villages or poor regions actually in China. Okay, so pairing up. Okay, this is like students in a course, right? Some students have trouble following the professors. Then those students who are quicker would help the poor students by pairing up. Okay, now and also let me give you another example, right? And there were 131,000 government officials were directly dispatched to poor regions. Some of them are government officials working in universities, or some of government officials working in the central government. Okay, they were seconded in English. Seconded. They sent out temporarily to poor regions to help the poor regions to resolve the problem of poverty relief. Okay, reduction. Okay, and also for each of the poor villages, okay, poor villages having lots of people living under poverty. Okay, now government official was sent. The government people actually live there. They stay there. They live there. They live with the poor farmers. Of course, they are on government payroll. They solve the problem on the ground for poor people. Okay, so that's second important lesson. Okay, the third lesson is also very simple, and I cannot think of any reason for other countries not being able to copy China. Okay, that is to cultivate markets. Eventually, you need markets to work in order for the poor people to be able to become rich. Okay, how does China work? Well, this picture says it all. Okay, this is a supermarket in Beijing. In this supermarket, there's a special row of shelf, special row of shelf. Okay, a shelf for food. It says, okay, this is set. Okay, this shelf has, okay, these are products from poor regions. Products, of course, they are certified, carefully certified. Okay, so through labeling those products carefully, consumers are encouraged to buy these products, therefore to help poor regions to produce, to make profit. Okay, so this is what we call the markets. So so there are many goods identified this way. Okay, as of the end of 2020, okay, the consumption of these products for poverty alleviation have exceeded 200 billion yuan, tremendous amount of money. Okay, so markets should work. The government should help this market to develop. Okay, without government's help, you might imagine that they are people who may opportunist people who may cheat. People who are from rich regions still label themselves as having products from poor region, right? So you need governments to come in, to kickstart and to protect and to cultivate this market. So that's lesson number 3, okay? Now, lesson number 4 is also very simple. That is, don't forget that why people are poor. Oftentimes people are poor because they live in very poor regions where the environmental condition, the ecological condition is very bad. It's not suitable for people living, for modern living. Okay, so these regions should be left alone for environmental recovery. Okay, these regions which are very poor, these geographical regions in western part of China are not suitable for human living. That regions should be left alone, should be left to animals, okay, to the environment to recover. Having people living there actually will further degrade the environmental quality. Okay, so this is a very simple lesson. Okay, so how did the Chinese government do it? Very simple. The Chinese government set up quite number of immigration programs. They immigrate people away from those environmentally sensitive or environmentally fragile region to other regions. In this picture, I show you. In this, you see new buildings, in the valley, right? Poor farmers used to live in the mountain. The mountains very high. The mountains should be left for trees. The farmers used to live there and they cut trees. Now the government moved them down to the valley, to the basin of the valley. Therefore, the farmers get employment, they get closer to factories, and the farmers have tap water, farmers have sanitary, so on and so forth. Okay, employment was created, right? And also the environmental protection was implemented for the mountains. The mountains become greener. Therefore, water is kept in the mountain. Therefore, there are less chances of mountain slides. Okay, so this is also very important. Well, how many? About 9.6 million poor people who have been relocated have moved into new homes. Okay, so China did this. This is a very important for I think for latecomers, for African countries and for some South Asian countries. So environmental protection and poverty reduction can be combined. It's a win-win combination. It's a win-win combination. Of course, this is difficult to implement. Why? Because you may not know this. I met some of them, okay? The poor farmers may not be willing to leave. They said, oh, our ancestors used to live here for generations. If we leave our ancestors, well, we become unlucky. Okay, bad fortune will come to us. You know, they are superstitious. So you have to be very patiently persuade these farmers to leave their poor homes, to give them good houses, right? So this is not simple. It's difficult. It's not as simple as as we think, okay, right? We are human. We live in cities. We know this very well. We move easily, okay? Every student, every professional like myself, we move countless times in our career. However, farmers don't like to move. You have to persuade them, okay? Now, what's lesson number 5? This is also very important. That is, don't just give money, okay? Lift the spirit of the poor people. Poor people are poor, not only because oftentimes they live in poor regions, it's also because they have poor spirit. They have self-doubt. they have self-doubt, they have superstitious thinking, right? And they have narrow mind. They're very narrow-minded, okay? So let me give you one example. I went to a village, and that village was doing very well when I went there, okay? I asked, how did you do this? One of the guys told me this, okay? He said, because 10 years ago, the local villager leader arranged me to go to a city. For the first time, I boarded on a train. I boarded a train. I went to a city. I spent 1 month in the city, in the city. That opened up my eyes, okay? Wow, people can live this. The world is so large. It's much larger than my village. So when I came home, he told me, I began to realize we have to work hard. Let's work hard. The opportunities are huge. So he became a leader of the city, trying to attract the businesses and investments into the city, and he helped other fellow villagers to become rich. So opening up a person's mind, a poor person's mind, try to lift the spirit is very important. In this picture, of course, where you are giving a picture of poor households given an opportunity to participate in recreation and arts training class, okay, to trying to make them happy, okay? So being happy, being mentally upright, be mentally happy is very important. It's more important perhaps than just giving money, okay? Now, number 6, final lesson, okay? Final lesson is a big surprise, okay? I argue that after poverty reduction, after poverty elimination, after poverty elimination, you need post-poverty programs. You need post-poverty programs. Why is that? Because Chinese experience told us poverty reduction is like riding a bicycle. You have to keep on pedaling. If you don't pedal, you fall down. If you don't pedal, then poor people will become poor again. So you have to have follow-up programs to push these people keep on moving. So there are incidences in which poor people become rich, and then they go to bad habit. They become poor again. So you need programs after poverty reduction, poverty elimination. Okay? So in China, there are 2 programs which I mentioned to you before. One is called Rural Revitalization Program. China established a new ministry level agency. It's called National Administration of Rural Revitalization. Okay? And also there is announcement, and China wants to make significant program by 2035. In 15 years, China really wants to make significant progress in this regard. It's just not lip service, okay? So, and also China announced by 2050, the rural areas will be fully rejuvenated with well-off farmers and strong agricultural sectors by pushing agricultural business in this region. So, as you can see here, there are programs after programs. Okay, so after helping the poor people, you have to follow up with another program. Okay, so these are the 6 lessons from China. Now, I do believe that these are not fancy lessons. These are not difficult lessons. These are easy lessons. Other countries can copy. Other countries can learn from China. Okay, so let me summarize. Okay, let me summarize what are the take-home messages you may get. Okay, so 3 simple points. Number 1, poverty is a shame of modern humanity. We should all work hard to eliminate poverty. Okay, it's a shame. Okay, it's a shame where we should eliminate this by 2030 following the UN Sustainable Development Program. Okay, and second point is that China made a tremendous contribution to the world's efforts in eliminating poverty, accounting for 70% of the reduction of poverty in the past 40 years, 70. China accounted for 70% of the world's reduction in poverty. And final point is that there are 6 simple lessons from China. 6 simple lessons from China. I argue all countries can learn, can copy. Not difficult one, okay? Number one is top level commitment, starting from top leadership. Number two is building institutions to reduce poverty, okay? The institutions can be your own creation, okay? But however, you have to build these detailed institutions, okay? Number three, cultivate markets. Let market work. Let market help poor people. Market should be a friend of poor people, okay? The government should help establish markets. Number four, environmental protection should be combined with poverty reduction. Okay, so these are two goods. We shoot two birds with one stone. Two good things happen at one time. Okay, so environmental protection program should be combined with poverty reduction, because many people live in environmentally fragile areas. Number five, don't just give money. Lift the spirit of the poor people. That way, you are able to fundamentally help them. And finally, okay, we need post-poverty programs. Okay, just like after college graduation, some of you go to graduate school, but in this case, they have to go to graduate school. After college graduation is not good enough, okay? Post-poverty programs. Okay, thank you very much for attending the Tsinghua Global Open Course. I totally enjoyed interacting with you and teaching this course, and looking forward to your feedbacks. Thank you.